Brahmanam vidadhati purvam yo vai vedanscha prahinoti tasmai tamhadevam atmabuddhi prakasham mumukshurvai sharanamaham prapadye asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Gurave Sarvalokanam, Bhishaje Bhavaroginam, Nidhaye Sarvavidyanam, Sri Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Okay, so we were in the middle of sixth chapter, and so we were kind of not doing a very structured study of the sixth chapter, but covering the sixth chapter in a very broad sense with some selective shlokas. So I thought I'll continue with that, but we did close the last week's session or 2 weeks back with some questions. So are there any questions that the participants would like to discuss before we move, or how do you want to do it? Like, for instance, there was a question about the hierarchy of devatas, and there was some other question about the desire for moksha. So I said, if there are any other questions, you can note it down and bring it up next week. So that's the reason I'm asking. Yeah, Adhyatmavari, I think you started saying something.
Yes, sorry. Yes, I had a question. It's not really related to the sixth chapter, but I've been listening to some of the previous sessions, and the one in which you said that essentially you are not your body, not your mind, not your thoughts, etc. So then, is the conclusion then, like, if that's true, then there's no individualism. So then everybody is basically the same. If you're not your body, not your mind, not your thoughts, or anything that you can see or feel, then everybody is the same. Like, there's no difference between you or I or anybody else. Is this the correct interpretation of that?
Yeah, in fact, the more correct interpretation is there is no everybody.
Okay.
Really speaking, all the other everybody's that you are seeing is merely a reflection of one true reality. And I said in one of the earlier sessions that this idea or this philosophy or this teaching is reflected in the Shiva temples, especially in the south, where there is a lingam in the Garbhagriha, and then behind the lingam on the wall there will be a mirror, a small mirror, which looks like a flower petal, and then in front of that mirror there will be a lamp, and then this mirror is actually consisting of some 16 different smaller pieces of mirror and one central round mirror in the center, and this lamp which is placed in front of the mirror is reflecting in all the small pieces of the mirror. So even though there is one lamp in the middle, you will see some 16 to 17 reflections on that mirror. This is a very typical scenario in many Shiva temples. I won't say all Shiva temples, but many Shiva temples. And then in the Vishnu temples, there is something similar, but not in the Garbhagraham. They have a separate room called mirror room. In Tamil, it's called Kannadi Arai. Arai means room. Kannadi means mirror. And in that mirror room, it will be a room full of mirrors on the wall. There will be different mirrors on the wall and even on the roof. and in the middle there will be one Vigraham of Vishnu kept, and all the mirrors will be having a reflection of this Vishnu. So all these are to convey the message that there is only one reality, and everything else that you see as multiplicity is nothing but reflection of that one reality. And the the power or intensity of the reflection depends on the reflecting medium. If the reflecting medium is clean, you have a very clear reflection. If the reflecting medium is dirty, you have a phased out reflection. It's exactly like, if you have your face seen in a concave mirror and a convex mirror, they look very different, but that's not your original face. So the reflection that you see in the mirror is a function of the quality of the reflecting medium. And so all the individual differences that you see in the world are all a question of the purity or the impurity of the reflecting medium, which in this case is the mind primarily. And that is what we call individuals. But this individuality is not the reality, it is just a reflection. The true one and only reality, which is Atma or Paramatma or consciousness, supreme consciousness, whatever name you give, you can call it Bhagavan. That one entity is the true reality. That is the ultimate teaching of Vedanta. And if you have understood that, you have understood everything in Vedanta. Yeah.
I may add something that this individuality that we experience, it is actually because we all are in the grip of what you call Prakriti. And Prakriti has these three gunas. So, and every individual is a combination of these sattvic, tamasic, and rajasic guna. And that makes us do things and think that we are individuals. Am I right?
Yeah, that Prakriti is what we call Maya or Ajnanam or Avidya. Avidya, ignorance. Okay.
Exactly.
So as long as we are not
Yeah.
knowledgeable about our true nature, as long as our mind is covered with ignorance,
Yeah.
we identify ourselves with the body, mind, intellect complex. And once you have gone through this Vedantic teaching and realize that, really speaking, all these, body, mind, intellect is not really your true identity, and there is one unchanging consciousness that makes all of this come to life. That is the final teaching. That's the end of the teaching. So you have gotten over your ignorance. Your ignorance is resolved, and then there is no more, struggle to be liberated. The truly liberated person is one who no longer looks forward to getting liberated. He realizes that he is already liberated, because all this problem of samsara and sorrow and other stress and strain identification with the body and mind. And once you realize that this body and mind will have all these limitations, we have a saying, Atma does not require liberation because Atma is ever liberated, and Anatma can never be liberated. So there is no need to struggle for liberation at all, because the Atma doesn't need liberation. It is already liberated. The Anatma can never be liberated. It will always have problems and limitations and troubles and so on. That is the nature, and that's what sometimes we call Prakriti. Okay, so body mind complex will keep changing, will undergo ups and downs, will have the the so-called vicissitudes of sorrow and happiness and all those turbulence. And so you just accept it and realize that no matter what happens to the body, your true nature is unaffected. You are not, even the fear of death, as we discussed in some sessions before, even the fear of death is caused because you tend to believe that you are the body, and you think death is an end of your nature, or death is your end itself. But then we said that death is not your end. Death is the end of this body. You survive beyond this death also. And if you are a jnani, you don't have another body. That is if you are a jnani in this janma, after you leave this body, you don't get any other new body. It is called videha mukti. So you are not subject to any more birth and death. Even the ajnanis, their atma is eternal, but they don't know it. So they tend to move from one body to another. Their mind, their karana shariram and sukshma shariram is still there. It doesn't get resolved. In the case of jnani, the karana shariram gets resolved, and so there is no sukshma shariram left to enter any other body. Whereas in the case of ajnani, the karana shariram is still alive, the sukshma shariram is still there. So the sukshma shariram, along with the prana and mind and everything, it goes to another body and it continues the journey. So this is the whole explanation for life and death. Okay, does it answer your question? Do you have more follow-up questions?
Yes, sir, that answered the question. But I mean, I've also, in other kind of discourses on Bhagavad Gita and so on, they mention basically this journey to liberation or seeking liberation or moksha. So then why would one do that if
Correct.
the Atma is already liberated?
Correct. So that is where the different schools of thought within Vedanta Sampradaya, they have a difference. Okay. So what I am telling in all these sessions is based on the Advaita Vedanta teaching. So Advaita Vedanta says that there is only one Atma which is real and everything else is less real. When we say unreal, people have a problem. So we don't say unreal, we say less real. Which is why I said in the very beginning, one of the sessions, I said there are 3 levels of reality. There is absolute reality, which is called paramarthikam. There is a transactional reality, which is vyavaharikam, and then there is a subjective or illusional reality, which is called pratibhasikam. So all these teachings are part of the Advaita Vedanta. But there are other schools of Vedanta. For instance, there is Visishta Advaitam, which is the Ramanujacharya tradition. And then there is a Dvaita tradition, which is the Madhva tradition, Madhvacharya tradition. And they don't accept, the essential oneness of Atma and Paramatma. So in their interpretation, Paramatma and Jivatma have a difference. Now, the degree of difference varies between the Dvaitic view and the Visishtadvaitic view, but in both cases, they don't accept the non-reality of the Jivas. So, in their system, the Paramatma, or what they call Vishnu or Narayana, and the Jivas have the same level of reality, and they don't accept a Nirguna Brahma. So, they're all philosophical differences. And I didn't want to confuse the audience here by bringing all that. So I follow the Advaita Vedanta philosophy, and so I did not want to confuse the people here with other variations and bring all those arguments. It's not necessary. See, ultimately, whether it is Advaitam or Visishta Advaitam or Dvaitam, all of them base their teachings with Upanishads as the Pramanam. Pramanam means the source of knowledge. Okay. So for every one of these schools, the Upanishads are the basis. So where do these differences come from? The differences come from how they interpret certain mantras and certain words that occur in the Upanishads. Okay. And so by interpreting the Upanishadic mantras in a certain way, the Visishtadvaitam school and the Dvaitam school, they actually violate some of the principles of Mimamsa. Okay, so for instance, in Visishtadvaitam, the Jiva is supposed to be a part of Paramatma. So they say, just like you have fingers and eyes and nose and ears in the body, but the body is one entity, but the other parts are part of the body. Exactly like that, there is a Paramatma, and all the Jivas are part of the Paramatma. That is their, core principle. But that assumption itself is invalid from a Upanishad Mimamsa point of view, because in the Vedas it is clearly stated that Paramatma has no parts. There is a word Nishkalam. Nishkalam means there is no part. So by violating a core principle in the Upanishad itself, they have their school of thought, which is fine, because in Advaitam what we say is, you cannot directly come to Advaitam. In order to come to Advaitam, you have to travel through Dvaitam, Visishta Advaitam, and then Advaitam is the ultimate reality. So we don't deny the relevance of Dvaitam and Visishta Advaitam. We don't dismiss them as irrelevant. We treat them as some kind of a stepping stone or intermediate destinations before you finally reach the ultimate destination of Advaitam. That is how we treat Dvaitam and Visishta Advaitam. But in their point of view, they vehemently criticize and oppose Advaitam and claim that we are wrongly interpreting the Upanishad. So that's an internal fight. I don't want to get into all that. Okay, so the problem the problem with listening to too many discourses is, you don't know whether that discourse, the person delivering the discourse, is he talking from an Advaitic angle or Dvaitic angle or Visishta Advaitic angle. And if you mix up everything, you will end up with confusion. Yeah, does it clear some doubts?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so it's very important when you get into Vedanta, these kind of studies, it's very important to make sure that you stick to one school of thought. If you follow Advaitam, you have to consistently be in the Advaitic school. And even the Advaitic school, at some point, there are some very subtle arguments, where one party differs from the other, and there are hair splitting that happens. But we don't have to go into that level of scholarship, because we are not here to become scholars. We are here to solve our practical problem, to understand what is samsara and how to get out of this problem. So for that level of let's say for that level of objectives or goals, this much is enough. We are not going to study 25 different granthas in Advaitam and split hair between very minute interpretations. That's not the purpose of this whole session. All right. Right.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else having any questions before we move to continuation of the 6th chapter? Subhuji, you had some questions. Would you want to take it up, or you give it a pass? He's on mute. Okay. So I presume there are no further questions. So I'll go to 6th chapter again. And so basically, as I said, the 6th chapter deals with dhyanam or meditation. And in the 6th chapter, there are broadly 5 topics that are covered, not in that kind of a structured manner, but you can kind of extract these 5 types of teachings from the shlokas. So the first set of teachings is what we call general preparation for meditation. Okay, samanya sadhanani, or general preparation for meditation, in which we talked about yama niyama. Those are the 10 qualities which we already covered in one of the earlier sessions. So the yama niyama is general preparation, and specific to the 6th chapter, Krishna says karma yoga. Karma yoga is a preparation on a day-to-day level for dhyanam. Okay, and then the next set of teachings is specific preparation before you sit for meditation. So that involves things like how do you sit, what should be your posture. There is a shloka in the 6th chapter which says samam kaya shiro grivam dharayan achalam sthiraha sampreksha nasikagram swam dishaschan avalokayan prashantatma vigatabhihi brahmachari vrate sthitaha manah sanyamya machitto yukta asita matparaha yunjannevam sadatmanam yogi niyatamanasah shantim nirvana paramam yogi niyatamanasah shantim nirvana paramam. What is that? I mixed up something there. Yogi yunjita satatam atmanam rahasi sthitah ekaki yatachittatma nirashita parigraha. Okay. Shuchau deshe pratisthapya sthiram asanam atmanah natyuchritam nati nicham shailajara kushotram. All those shlokas are there. So basically what he says is, when you sit on the floor, your body has to be in a posture where your head, neck and the backbone are in one straight vertical line. That is what the meaning of samam kaya shiro grivam dharayan. So you have to be in some kind of a padmasana posture and hold your torso vertically, and your head, neck and backbone should be aligned in a straight line vertically. If you, the reason why it is said that is, in that posture you will not get into back pain or neck pain even after 30 minutes or 40 minutes. Otherwise you will tend to bend forward or bend backward, and that will strain your backbone. So that's the reason, if you maintain a vertical posture, perfectly vertical posture, your backbone will not be loaded, so you will not feel any backache, lower back or upper back or whatever, or neck pain, all that will not be there. And your seat has to be sufficiently clean that you are not disturbed by any insects and all that. So there is also a shloka that says you have to be seated in a place where you are not disturbed by wind, you are not disturbed by bees and insects, and the place is not too cold or too hot, so that you can feel comfortable for a long time. And also that you should not have overslept or underslept. All those things are there. So basically, if you have overslept, you will feel some kind of a sluggishness, so you won't be able to focus your mind. If you have underslept, you will tend to fall off to sleep during meditation. So you have to have a proper measure of sleep. And then you should not have overeaten, you should not have starved, because if you have overeaten, again you will feel drowsy. If you have not eaten, if you are fasting, then your stomach will make all sorts of noises, you may be distracted by hunger and all that. So it is to make sure that you are in a state of mind where you can forget everything else in the world for 30-40 minutes or 1 hour. So basically it's a very very personalized kind of preparation. You may feel comfortable doing some plus minus here and there. Okay, and ideally you are supposed to start meditate between 4 and 6 in the morning, but there are people who don't who cannot do that. So if you think that you can meditate peacefully in the evening, then that's fine. That 4 to 6 is a good recommendation, It's not compulsory. So there are all these recommendations which one has to follow, and of course you have to be clothed in a fairly comfortable dress, so that the dress is not very tight, you are able to sit in a comfortable posture. So all these go without saying. Okay, so these are not really important from a Vedantic point of view, but what is important is you are able to close your eyes and focus your mind for 10, 15, 20, whatever minutes, and experience that peace of mind. So that is the specific preparation or Vishesha sadhana just before you start meditating. That is the second set of teachings. Then the third set of teachings is the uh, Dhyana Swarupam. Dhyana Swarupam means what exactly happens during the process of meditation. That is Dhyana Swarupam. So what happens? So the whole idea about Dhyanam is to hold your mind focused on one or few teachings of Vedanta, and I am talking specifically about Vedantic meditation, where this is a form of Nididhyasanam. So there is an assumption that you have already gone through the Vedantic teaching, so you have already learned about Atma being none other than Paramatma, that you are not this body, mind, etc. So you remember those teachings by choosing one or two or more mantras which you want to repeat, and then this 10 or 15 minutes or 20 minutes of meditation that you plan is spent entirely on recollecting and repeating these mantras. It doesn't have to be necessarily in Sanskrit. If you are comfortable doing it in any other language, your mother tongue or whatever language, you can do it. But the point note is your thoughts must be only on those teachings. Like I said, Vijatiya Pratyaya Anantarita Sajatiya Pratyaya Pravaha. So the flow of thoughts in your mind have to be all Vedantic teaching related thoughts. As long as you maintain that state of mind, then you have successfully meditated. Okay, and you can try to change your mantra from sitting to sitting, and you can slowly try to improve or tweak the methods. And at some point, if you are able to just repeat one mantra alone for a length of time, that is a good measure of your control. Yeah, Kishoriji, you wanted to say something?
No, sorry, no.
Okay, so that is the Dhyana Swarupam. So, like I said in the last class, it is the state of mind where the mind is like that flame in a lamp, which is completely free from any disturbances. So, that steady flame. So, your mind is also like that steady flame. Or we gave another example that when the oil flows in a very thick, viscous stream without any bubbles or breaks. So your mind is like that. Or we give a third example. So imagine there is a huge lake, and imagine the surface of that lake, water surface of that lake. And when there is absolutely no wind in that area, the water surface will be completely still, no waves, no ripples, no nothing. It will be a still surface of the lake. So your mind should be like that. It should be without any external disturbances or internal disturbances. Okay, and this cannot come on day one. This has to be practiced slowly, and it may take several weeks or months or even years, depending on how intensely you practice this. And initially you may want to restrict it to a few minutes, 2 3 5 minutes, and depending on the success that you experience, you can extend it to another 10 15 20 whatever minutes. But the idea is to use this as an exercise to have complete control on your mind. Yeah, it is not that you want to sit for several hours in meditation without any worry or anything, you should not get used to that blankness or that peace. So in Vedanta, we really emphasize that, while meditating and taking control of your mind is important, that should not distract you away from your day-to-day duties and other activities. In fact, the best meditation is one when you can keep your mind calm and composed and focused while you are executing your duties. While you are actually actively working in society, if you can keep your mind on the teaching, that is the best form of meditation. But not everybody can do it all the time. So in order to help you reach that stage gradually, you allocate some time specifically for sitting in meditation, and then see how you can bring that state of mind even while you are actively doing something. Okay, so that should be the way to progress. Okay, then the fourth set of teachings is what we call jnana phalam or dhyana phalam, not jnana phalam, dhyana phalam. So what happens once you have mastered this meditation technique to a good extent? There are some shlokas for that. I will go to the original Gita and see if I can pick up that shlokas. Okay, so
How about Pratasmarami?
well, pratasmarami is basically a prayer. Okay, so there the focus or the shloka refers to a saguna devata. So what is your pratasmarami shloka? There are different pratasmarami shlokas. What is the one that you chant?
Shankaracharya. Hriday Sanspirat Atma Tattvam.
Okay, can you chant the full first shloka line?
Yeah, yes. At the moment, I just can't get it.
Okay.
Pratasmarami Hriday Sanspirat Atmatvam Satchit Sukham Paramakati Hams.
Okay, is
Next
that
time.
a shloka
Shan-
on the
Shankaracharya.
Nirguna Brahman?
Yeah,
Okay, so if it is a shloka on Nirguna Brahman,
yeah.
that pratasmarami is, I am remembering early in the morning, but let's say you are doing the meditation in the night, that pratasmarami is not
Yeah,
relevant.
that is true.
Yeah?
That is true. Yeah.
So if you can take the teaching without that pratasmarami word, then it is helpful.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
which is
yes.
why I said
Yeah.
that Nirvana Shatkam Mano Buddhi
Yeah,
Ahankara
Mano
Chittani Naham is a
Buddhyankaram. Yeah,
very suitable
but, but,
shloka because you
but
can
it,
chant it
yeah, but
anytime.
it has 6 stanzas.
You
Yeah.
can just take one shloka, no?
Yeah,
See,
yeah.
you can repeat one shloka any number of times as long as
Yeah,
you are not distracted.
and
So,
yes,
Mano Buddhi Ahankara Chittani Naham. That's all. Not even full shloka,
yes,
half a shloka.
yes, yeah.
Mano Buddhi Ahankara Chittani Naham. Mano Buddhi Ahankara Chittani Naham. You can repeat it 100 times. That is also a good meditation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, sixth chapter, 18th shloka, Yada Viniyatam Chittam Atmanyevavatisthate Nisprihah Sarvakamebhyo Yukta Ityuchate Tada. So, this is actually a Dhyana Swarupam shloka. So, here Bhagavan says, when the mind is completely focused on Brahman, Atma, and Nisprihah Sarvakamebhyo. So he is free from all desires. All
Desires.
desires means all materialistic desires. Okay, to clarify, last week somebody asked, desire for moksha is also a desire. I am not talking about that desire. I am talking about when we say sarva kamebhyo, we are talking about materialistic desires. Yukta ityuchate tada. So that person is a true meditator. Okay. Then yatha deepo nivatastho nengate sopama smrita yogino yatachittasya yunjato yogamatmana. 19th shloka. So this is the example that I mentioned, that the flame of that lamp which is not affected by wind, not disturbed by the wind. That is the shloka here. Then yatro paramate chittam niruddham yoga sevaya Yatra chaiva atmanatmanam pashyan atmani tushyati. This is a dhyana phalam shloka. So, yatra uparamate chittam niruddham yoga sevaya. So, when your mind is completely captivated and arrested in a positive sense, arrested means made still without any disturbance. Yoga sevaya, by the process of meditation, yatra chaiva atmanatmanam pashyan atmani tushyati. So here the word atmana atmanam means, the first atmana means with your mind, the second atmanam means your consciousness. So when your mind is focused on your true nature, which is the consciousness, then atmani tushyati, again that atmani is the mind. So your mind is capable of experiencing a certain joy. That joy is actually not some external joy that comes to you, but it's a ananda of the atma that gets to manifest itself. We define joy in very different ways, but most of the joy that we talk about in practical day-to-day life is a joy that we experience when we get some external object. Okay, but then when you sit in meditation and experience a certain joy or a peace, that is not something that comes from outside, from any object, but that's the internal ananda of the chaitanyam that gets reflected in the mind, because the mind is calm and still and peaceful, that it is able to reflect that ananda of the chaitanyam, and you are able to then experience it. So that is the bliss within quotes that we talk about when the meditation is successful. So you experience a certain peace, that's what we call a certain tranquility of the mind. And even if you have experienced it for just 1 or 2 minutes or 3 minutes, you can still relish that tranquility, and then you know that yes, my meditation has been successful, and then you know what worked for you in those 2-3 minutes, and then you can work on the following days or following weeks to make sure that these 3 minutes gets extended to 5, 10, 20 minutes. So everyone has to figure out their own way of how to achieve this tranquility. It's not something that it's not something that can be taught. If something works for me, that may not work for you. So you have to sit in meditation, figure out what will make your mind peaceful. Okay, that is the Pashyan Atmani Tushyati. Tushyati means to experience a certain satisfaction. Purnatvam. We use the word Purnatvam, and Purnatvam means a feeling of fulfillment. A feeling of fulfillment. And the grossest example I can give for fulfillment is when you go to a buffet dinner or buffet lunch and you have eaten, you are real full. You have eaten so much that after you have eaten, if somebody offers you a small barfi or gulab jamun or rasgulla, you will say, no, I don't want, I'm full. You are full to that extent. That is a fulfillment, but that's a fulfillment at a body level. Similarly, when you say Purnatvam, what happens? You know that your true nature is this Atman or consciousness, and this whole world is resting in you. So there is actually no need for you to want anything more. You have everything. And because you have everything, you don't have any more need. And that is the Purnatvam or Tushti. Tushyati is a verbal form. The adjective is Tushti, or the noun form is Tushti. Tushti means satisfaction. Tripti. Okay, that is the when you experience the tripti in meditation, that's the true definition of a successful meditation. Then 21st shloka, Sukham Atyantikam Yattat Buddhigrahyam Atindriyam Vetti Yatra Na Chaivayam Stitaschalati Tatvatah. Okay, Sukham Atyantikam Yat Tat buddhigrahyam atindriyam. So you experience a certain happiness or peace or tranquility which is not coming from any sense pleasure, but coming purely from your inner spring. Can imagine, imagine there's a spring of happiness inside you, and that spring of happiness is producing that happiness, and you are able to experience it. Okay, sthitas chalati tatvatah, and you are able to steadily maintain that feeling, and also understand that this is something that comes from inside me. And that is when you know that you are Ananda Swarupam. When we say Satchidananda Atma, that Ananda Swarupam means you are not a container for happiness, but you are happiness itself. You have to understand this statement very clearly. You are not a container for happiness to be, for the happiness to come from somewhere and fill you with happiness. No, you are happiness itself. And in this meditative state, you are able to experience that inner happiness and realize that you are Ananda Swarupam. That is the Sthitas Chalati Tatvatah. Then, Yam Labdhva 22, Shloka 22. Yam Labdhva Chaparam Labham Manyate Nadhikam Tatah Yasmin Sthito Na Dukkhena Guruna Api Vichalyate. So once you have reached this state of meditation, there is nothing more that you will want to achieve in life, and you cannot be swayed by any negative happening that can happen. So you are able to withstand any negative event or any negative development and still remain undisturbed in that situation. So that is the true measure of a successful meditator. Okay. Tam vidyat dukkha samyoga viyogam yoga sangitam sa nischayena yoktavyo yogo nirvinna chetasa. Okay, so dukkha samyoga viyogam yoga sangitam. So normally when you feel happy, what happens? There is an event that makes you happy, and then you are happy because of that event, and that happiness lasts for maybe a few minutes or maybe a few hours or sometimes even a few days, but at the end of it, that happiness wanes and you return back to a state of non-happiness, which may also sometimes be a state of unhappiness. Non-happiness means the happiness is gone, and unhappiness means there is actually something sorrowful that is experienced. So there is a up and down. You have happiness, lack of happiness, unhappiness, again happiness. So there is a arrival and departure of happiness and arrival and departure of unhappiness. But in the meditative state, what you realize is that there is no need for an arriving happiness and the departing unhappiness. You can bring your mind to that state of happiness by going into that meditative state. Bring that spring of happiness from inside you and make sure that it fills your mind. So that is the practice that you can become an expert at once you have practiced this meditation for a length of time. When I say length of time, it doesn't mean you got to sit in meditation for several days together. No, what I'm saying is, even if you do 5 minutes or 10 minutes of meditation consistently over several weeks or months, then you get that practice. It's like doing weightlifting or running or any other physical exercise. Even if you do 10 minutes of physical exercise every day consistently, that keeps your body fit. Exactly like that, even if you do 5 minutes or 10 minutes of meditation on a regular basis consistently, you can still go into that state at the drop of a hat. At the flip of a coin, you can go into that meditative state, and you can insulate yourself from any external disturbances that you may want to protect yourself from. Okay. And one point I wanted to clarify, when we talked about, I use the word sankalpa in the second shloka. Yam sanyasamiti prahuhu. I am jumping to the second shloka now. I am going back to the beginning of the chapter. Yam sanyasamiti prahuhu yogantam vidhi pandava nahya sanyasta sankalpo yogi bhavati kashana. There I said sankalpa, I translated as the karma phalam. But
No,
actually, the word sankalpa in the Mimamsa, the word sankalpa means concern for the future. Concern for the future, because all of us at some level or the other have some kind of an insecurity about the future. And a karma yogi or a true sannyasi is one who has completely given up all concerns about the future. So that is the sankalpa. So why I talked about is, here also the word sankalpa comes here in this shloka. Sankalpa prabhavan kaman tyaktva sarvan aseshataha manasaivendriya gramam viniyamya samantataha. So this is again going back to the dhyana swarupam shloka. So here what he says is, when you sit for meditation, you have to get rid of all the thoughts in your mind which relate to any of your plans for activities which is supposed to take care of your tomorrow's concern or next week's concern or next month's concern. So the worry about future has to be completely shut out. Even if it is for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, you tell your mind that I will not worry about tomorrow. I will not worry about even next one hour. Even if the doorbell rings or even if your phone rings, you will ignore it and just focus on your meditation. And similarly, some people have the problem of the guilt that happened in the past. That also has to be shut out. So don't let your mind be disturbed by any guilt or disappointment from past events, and don't let your mind be affected by any worry or concern for future events. And keep your mind completely isolated and insulated for those 5, 10, 15 minutes of your meditation, and make sure that you focus on that Vedantic teaching that you would want to repeat. That is the sankalpa prabhavan kaman tyaktva. Tyaktva means by renouncing. Manasaiva indriya gramam viniyamya samantataha. So that requires a lot of self-control. You have to make sure that your sense organs are under your control, and it doesn't stray away. You don't end up thinking about this and that. So it requires a lot of sense control and mind control. Okay. Then shanai shanai ruparamed buddhya dhritigrihitaya atma samstham manakritva na kinchidapi chintayeti. This is also a dhyana swarupa shloka. So when you are sitting in meditation, when you are preparing, your mind cannot come down to a state of calmness immediately. It takes time. So you have to allow that time for the mind to calm down step by step slowly. So which is why I said in the last class that if you want to prepare for meditation for 10 minutes, your preparation itself may take 20 minutes or so, because your mind is going through a lot of different transactions which you have been engaged in, and all those samskaras will be there. So you have to get all of them out of your mind one by one, and that's a slow process. So shanaihi means gradually. You have to allow the mind to cool down and calm down gradually. So don't expect to be completely calm in 2 minutes. That won't work. You have to be patient with yourself and allow the mind to calm down and then get into meditation. Okay. So these are all some of the practical tips that Krishna gives in this chapter. If I start doing a shloka by shloka explanation, actually this 6th chapter will require anything like 12 to 15 sessions. It's a very elaborate chapter, so I'm just trying to jump from shloka to shloka and give a quick summary. And so that was the dhyana phalam. And there is one aspect that Krishna talks about, which is the hurdles for meditation. So one of the hurdles for meditation will be the fact that your mind runs away into different thoughts. Okay, somebody else, the hurdle can be that they may fall asleep. So these are all some common hurdles, and the only way that you can practically overcome this hurdle is to keep trying and keep practicing. If you have not, let's say you sat with the intention of meditating on a particular day, and on that day you did not have any success in bringing your mind to a state of calmness. You spent 15 minutes, but no dhyanam. Don't give up. Again, try next day. Again, try the third day, fourth day. Keep trying, and that repeated attempt to sit for meditation itself will give you the strength to find out your own technique to calm your mind. So the word abhyasa, in the 35th and 36th shloka, 35th shloka, Krishna says, Abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena cha grihyate. So that is actually an answer to a question from Arjuna. In the 33rd and 34th shloka, Arjuna says, look, hey Krishna, you are talking about meditation in so many nice terms, but when I try to sit and do any meditation, my mind is not under my control. It is so difficult to control, like it is trying to control the wind. Yeah. Vayu or eva sudushkaram. Vayu means wind. So exactly like how you cannot control the wind, my mind is also out of control. So what do I do? That is the question Arjuna asks in the 33rd and 34th shloka. Yes, Kishori ma'am, you said something?
Yes, it is so difficult as if to control the wind.
Yeah, so that's
Right.
what Arjuna says. So, I'll read those two shlokas. Arjuna uvacha, yoyam yogastvaya proktaha samyena madhusudana एतस्याहं न पश्यामि चंचलत्वात् स्थितिं स्थिराम चंचलम ही मनः कृष्ण प्रमाथि बलवदृढ़ं तस्याहं निग्रहं मन्ये वायोरिव सुदुष्करम. So Vayoriva means like the wind. Sudushkaram means it's extremely difficult. Chanchalam means the mind is not steady, it is wavering, it is moving from one place to another. So Arjuna says it's so difficult to control my mind, it's like controlling the wind. And then Krishna says, Abhyasena tu kaunteya. And he says, first line he says, Asamshayam mahabaho mano durnigraham chalam. So he says, hey Arjuna, this is not your problem alone. This problem is not unique to you. This is a common problem. Everybody has this problem because the mind by definition is a very dynamic entity. It is actually designed to be dynamic. The mind is designed to be dynamic. If the mind were not dynamic, we will have a lot of problems. The mind can change its configuration very, very, very fast. It's even supposed to be faster than light. Okay. And, when I'm talking, I'll give you a small example. When I'm talking, my voice brings you word after word after word. In 1 minute, you probably hear 100 words or 50 words. I don't know how quickly I talk. And when you're listening to me, or when anybody listens to you, or when I listen to anybody, I have to catch every word. I have to catch every word as they come and grasp it and understand it. So if my mind is stuck to one word, imagine my mind is stuck to the first word, and it takes a few seconds to get unstuck from that word. By the time 20 words would have gone, and I would have missed 20 words. But the mind is so dynamic that it catches all the words, understands everything, and even replies. Even as the other person is talking, your mind is preparing for the answer. Yeah, so the mind is meant to be dynamic. It is the function of the mind to be dynamic, but that doesn't mean you always allow it to waver. You have to, under circumstances, wherever required, you have to be able to hold the mind and make it still. So that is the practice of meditation. Okay. And there is one more topic here which goes on from the 37th shloka. I will probably skip that now for this session, and maybe we can take it up in the next session or whatever. If there are any questions from today's talk, we can discuss for a few minutes.
Yes, sir. I have a question. So all these benefits, let's just call them, of meditation, or the benefit, one benefit is this happiness state. So why would this only be achieved by Vedantic meditation and not any other kind of meditation? For example, like Namasmaran, or chanting some other shloka or stotra. Why not that?
Sure, good question. We are not saying that the other forms of meditation will not give you that happiness. That's not what we are saying. But what we are saying is, in all other forms of meditation, that happiness remains with you only for the period of meditation. Once your meditation is over, you revert back to the worldly habits, and then you are again subject to the torment of sorrow, pain, problems attacking you. And then you want to escape all that, and you want to again go into meditation to escape all these pains. But in Vedantic meditation, the meditation is not to escape from sorrow, but the meditation is to control your mind to such an extent that even when you are actively working in your day-to-day duties, you can keep your mind in that state of calmness and experience that happiness on a continued basis. You get the difference? In the other forms of meditation, that happiness of meditation is a limited experience. It depends on your nama japam or whatever that you are doing. Or if you are a yogic meditator, you depend on your nirvikalpaka samadhi to be in that state of happiness. But once your nirvikalpaka samadhi is over, you are back into this realm of sorrow and pain and problems. But in Vedanta, you begin the meditation with the knowledge that my true nature cannot be in any way diminished, because I am Purna Atma. And you meditate with the intention of saturating your mind with this teaching, so that it reflects in your day-to-day behavior also. So if you have meditated for long enough to control your mind at will, you can experience this calmness and happiness even when you are actively working and not necessarily sitting in meditation. Does it make sense?
Yes, sir. Makes sense.
Okay. Anybody else? Yeah, Shvetambari ji.
Sir, I had a question. Um, you said we can start for the beginners, we can start from some shlokas, some small parts of shlokas. Where could we find these shlokas to meditate upon?
So I gave you the example of Nirvana Shatkam, Mano Buddhyankara Chittani Naham. That is one. there is a text called Viveka Chudamani, and in the Viveka Chudamani, there are at least 30 or 40 shlokas which are useful for Nididhyasanam. I can try to tell you, if you give me a couple of minutes. Viveka Chudamani. Yeah. And then there are Upanishad mantras. So Viveka Chudamani and Nirvana Shatkam are only two samples. All the Upanishads have some or the other mantras which can be used for Nididhyasanam. And we have these Mahavakyams, Aham Brahmasmi, Tattvamasi. These are also lines that you can repeat and do Nididhyasanam. The point is, it is not the repetition of the mantra, but it is the understanding of the meaning of that mantra. That is what is important. You have to understand what that mantra means, and that meaning should reflect or reverberate in your mind. That is the whole purpose.
Yes, sir. For that, then my next question was, you also said we could, it is not necessary that we chant only the Sanskrit shloka, because I have not learned Sanskrit and I don't understand Sanskrit that well. So I can also chant the same mantras or understand the meaning of it in my own mother tongue.
Definitely.
Where could I find then? What are my sources? Where should I look on for these shlokas in
That is
Marathi?
something I may not be able to help you, because
Okay.
I mean, if you have not learned Sanskrit, you can still learn a few mantras and learn their meaning and use it. Okay. So the fact that you have not learned Sanskrit till now actually should not stop you from learning at least a few mantras. No.
Yes, definitely. But then I can learn the chanting of the mantras, because I also chant some other mantras which are in Sanskrit. I already do that. But understanding a mantra and really meditating on that mantra, on the understanding of that mantra, for that it would be helpful to understand the shloka, the mantra in my own mother tongue.
Correct. Okay. Now I found out the mantra or the shlokas in Viveka Chudamani. I can give you the reference. You can. I'll share the PDF text in the group so that everybody has access to the PDF Vivek Chudamani text. Okay.
Thank you very much, sir.
So it is somewhere around the 250th shloka onwards. Okay. 250 onwards, there are some series of shlokas. And I will actually do a little more search or research in the text and give the exact number of shlokas which are useful. And yeah, for instance, I can give you right away if you want to note it down. 254, from 254, 255, 256, 257, 258, 259, then 260, 261, 262, 263. Yeah. How many? You have 10, 11?
Yes,
10.
sir. 10. 10.
10.
Yes.
Yeah. So I started from 254, right?
Yes, sir. 254.
254. Yeah. So for instance, Jati Neti Kula Gotra Duragam Nama Rupa Gunadosha Varjitam Desha Kala Vishayati Vartiyate Brahma Tattvamasi Bhavayatmani. That is how the shloka runs. So what we can do is, if you are interested, if others are interested, we can spend 1 or 2 sessions and learn the meaning of these shlokas, and then you can go and sit and if you can memorize these 10 shlokas, it's actually a very good exercise. Yeah. If you memorize
sir.
and then also have the meaning, then
Mhm.
it's that much helpful for you.
Yes, it would be really very helpful if we can take one or two sessions, but I don't know. We need to ask the other members. I would be really happy to learn the meanings of these shlokas.
Great. So what I'll do is, to save everybody the time, I'll share the PDF, Vivek Chudamani PDF. I'll share the shloka references, and I'll also share my. No, I conducted Vivek Chudamani between 2017 and 2021. So I've actually got recordings of the meanings of all these shlokas. I'll share that link where you can access the recordings and you can listen to them. And if you still are interested, we can have maybe not explaining the meaning, but a discussion on these shlokas. Yeah. So that will require some homework on your part. Yeah. And the reason I'm doing this is at the beginning of this today's session, your moderator told me that in this calendar year we can at the most do 2 more sessions, and after that I believe people are going on vacation and so on. So there could be a break or there could be a complete closure of this session depending on what you people want. And if you are going to completely close this session, then having the recordings may be useful to you. So it's all entirely up to you. If you want to continue in the next calendar year, I'm happy. If you want to say finally, okay, we are done, thank you so much, then I'm happy with it. Either way, I'm fine. Okay.
Okay,
So
sir.
right, so you can let me know. Next 2 sessions means today's 19, that means 26 and 2nd December. No, after that we cannot have any more sessions in this year. That's what I understand.
Third,
Am I right?
third, sir, third, 22nd, third, and if people want, we can have one on the 10th, but that would be the last one.
Wait. So we are doing it on Tuesdays.
Right. So
So
26th,
26th, 3rd.
mhm,
Yeah. 26th
third,
and
and
3rd.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
right. And if people want, we can have one on the 10th.
Right. So I'm fine. So you can let me know, and depending on what the group decides, I will offer whatever I can. And if you want to continue next year, I'm happy to continue. You can discuss among yourselves and let me know. Okay. So as long as the participants consider these sessions to be useful and productive, I'm happy to be of help. My guru says that a really good guru is one who who enables the student to operate independent of the guru. So your dependence on the guru should not be permanent. At some point you should be able to say, okay, I've learned everything, thank you, and move on. So that is the enablement of a true guru. That's the mark of a true guru, to enable the whoever is learning. I'm not saying I'm a guru, sorry, I'm not elevating myself to a guru, but I'm just, treat me as somebody who's a classmate who's a little more knowledgeable than the rest of you. So I'm just sharing my knowledge, but you have to be able to say, okay, I've learned enough, thank you, I'll move on. And that's the true mark of my success also. Okay. So we can decide how long we want to continue, and then yeah, that's it. Right. So we'll close for today. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We'll chant the closing shlokas and we can formally close. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate Sarvesham Swastirbhavatu Sarvesham Shantirbhavatu Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu Sarve Sukhinas Santu Sarve Santu Niramayah Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank
Namaste.
you so
Bye.
much, sir.
Thank you
Namaste.
very
Thank you.
much.